Hello everyone, my name is Jennifer. As part of my follow-on project for the Gilman Scholarship Program, I just wanted to start a little series here talking about studying abroad and all that entails. Finding and applying for study abroad programs, finding and applying for scholarships, and some of my experiences abroad. Though I imagine that a lot of study abroad programs have been put on hold for now, or canceled like mine was, I don't want anyone to lose hope for the future. Plus, even when there isn't a global pandemic, I know that there are plenty of people who always think, I could never study abroad and never even try. I was one of those people for a long time too. But I can say this, if you never even try to get those scholarships, then you'll never know if you could have done it. So it's really important to just try. I didn't think that I would be able to receive a scholarship from the Gilman program, but I did. And now I want to share with you the steps that I took when applying to study abroad and when applying for the Gilman Scholarship and other scholarships as well. Even though I know that some of these steps may seem super basic, it was a time of constant uncertainty and waiting for me, and I would have really liked to have the process laid out for me. I really want everybody to stay excited to study abroad, even if it's not possible for everyone right now. Don't give up and just use this time to prepare as much as possible for when everything is open again. Now, let's get into it. Number 1. Researching programs. Often people study abroad in college or university, and this was the case for me. Like a lot of universities, my school had a couple of direct exchange programs to partnered universities overseas. But my school was also affiliated with a couple of third-party study abroad providers as well. Now, the benefits of exchange programs that your school runs are usually that the cost of your tuition at your host university overseas is the same as the tuition that you pay at your home university. So you're already used to paying that amount. And this is really something that I'd recommend if it's feasible. Unfortunately for me, the exchange programs that my school had to offer were only semester-long programs, and I really wanted to go for a year. I wanted to experience living and studying abroad in Japan for as long as possible. So I was really only considering the affiliate programs because they had year-long options. I just wasn't considering semester-long programs at all, so my choice was very simple. I went for an affiliate program and applied for that. The main thing about affiliate programs, though, is that they're more expensive than exchange programs by a considerable amount. So even though I had decided on an affiliate program, I still had to look at each one and weigh the pros and cons and see what would be best. I ended up choosing Nagasaki, which was both the cheapest, had cute cats on its school's Instagram page, and was the hometown of both an idol and an actress that I like. Hey, whatever works, right? I would say when choosing a program, take everything into account. The cost, the location, the courses offered, but also take yourself into consideration. One of the main reasons that I knew that I wasn't going to go to Osaka or Tokyo was that I knew that I was going to be overwhelmed by all the people. If that's your jam, then go for it. But if you think that you'd have a better experience in a calmer city, then don't be afraid of going for one of those either. It's your experience. It's not your friends, it's not your families, it's not those travel vlogs that make you feel like there's only one place to be. Choose what's best for you. And then, once you've chosen a program, it's time for the next step. Number 2, applying for your study abroad program. People don't really tell you this, but applying to study abroad is a lengthy process, especially if you're using an affiliate program. Maybe the exchange programs are more expedited since they're already linked with your school, but for those of us who chose to go for an affiliate, it can take a while, and no one really tells you this beforehand. First off, there are 3 applications: your schools, your programs, and the host university abroad. And you're already spending money from the get-go with application fees and program deposits, all before you have your final approval from your host university abroad. So even those scholarships like the Gilman Program Scholarship and the Fund for Education Abroad Scholarship can come into play later, even applying to study abroad can be both a lengthy and expensive process. And while your deposit might go towards your program fees, your initial application fee with your home university might not. Mine didn't. But don't give up hope. I started saving for my study abroad trip a year before I went. But for others, it might take even longer to account for the initial application fee. There are organizations like the Gilman Scholarship Program, the Fund for Education Abroad, and for Japan specifically, the AATJ Bridging Scholarship that are trying to make studying abroad more accessible, which is wonderful and needed now more than ever. Perseverance is key. I never thought that I'd have the financial means to study abroad. I never thought that anyone would give me a scholarship because I just didn't see myself as that special. But it is really better to try than to never know if it could have happened at all. For reference, I started the process of applying to study abroad in September of 2018. I got my approval from my home university soon after, and my approval from my program, USAC, in October of that year. I did not get my final approval from the host university until June of 2019, about 3 months before the program was set to begin. I'm told that this is totally normal, but I didn't know about it beforehand and I wasn't prepared. And it meant that I spent most of the year feeling very uncertain. Gotten my scholarship, I'd been saving for months, but was I really going? I wasn't sure yet. I wasn't ready for it, but I want everybody else to be. It takes a lot of time, a lot of waiting, a lot of uncertainty, and certainly a lot of writing application essays. But it's worth it in the end. It's worth it. And someday, I believe that you'll be able to do it too. Number 3, finding and applying for scholarships. So this step actually coincides with applying to study abroad. Like I said, I didn't get my final approval until about 3 months before my program was actually set to begin. But most scholarship deadlines are way before that. I'd say for a program beginning in the fall, a lot of scholarships cut off in early spring or even around New Year's if they're early. So it's best to look into them as soon as possible. Because due dates are so important to keep track of, I'd recommend putting them on a calendar or into an Excel sheet, which is what I did. I put in the name of the scholarship, the website, the scholarship amount, what was needed for that application, and the deadline. This way I could see everything that I needed to know at a glance, and I could organize them from the earliest deadline so I was sure that I wouldn't miss anything. And one of the first things that I did when I was researching scholarships was actually asking my classmates who had studied abroad before what scholarships they applied for. Among my classmates was someone who had studied abroad and received one of the Gilman scholarships. So that was one of the first scholarships to go on my list. Next, I searched around both on my school website and the internet, and I found a couple more that I decided to keep track of. Mainly the Fund for Education Abroad, the Bridging Scholarship from the AATJ, and the Toshizo Watanabe Scholarship. The last two are for studying in Japan, though the Toshizo Watanabe Scholarship is also for Japanese students studying in the US. Along with the scholarships from the World Languages Department at my school, these were the main 4 that I was looking into. The Fund for Education Abroad and the Toshizo Watanabe Scholarship were the biggest of them all, while the Gilman Scholarship was a little bit below that, and the Bridging Scholarship was just for that, bridging whatever gap in funds you might have. Every scholarship has different requirements. While some might require just a general essay about your desire to study abroad, others will have specific questions that they want you to answer in a cohesive manner. It's best to keep track of what goes where and start to get an idea of how you want to tell your story when composing your essay. On top of essays, a lot of scholarships also require letters of recommendation. Some only take one, while others might require multiple. I would recommend asking your professors as early as you can, because even if they're willing to write a letter of recommendation for you, they're still really busy, and it's best to give them as much time as possible. Don't be shy, like I am. If you have a good relationship with your professors, or if you're a good student, I'm sure that plenty of them will be more than willing to write a letter of recommendation for you. I really didn't think that I would get a scholarship, and I tried to load up on as many applications as possible because of that, just to increase my chances as much as possible. But sometimes other people see in you what you don't really see in yourself, and they give you a chance. I didn't get every scholarship that I applied for, but I did get a scholarship from the Gilman program and from the Fund for Education Abroad, along with a couple from my school. They really made all the difference. Even though I had been saving up for several months, I still would not have been able to study abroad without them. So make sure you don't give up before you've even started, and take a chance. A scholarship could really help you change your life through studying abroad. Next step is number 4, student visas. When you finally get your approval from your host university abroad, it's time to start working on that student visa situation. Fortunately, you'll have advisors to help you along the way if you're working with your school or an affiliate program. When applying for your visa, you send off your application to the embassy in charge of the area you're in. There are websites that'll tell you which one that is, but my program also had a list available. Mine went straight to the Houston embassy, and it might vary from country to country, but when I applied for my student visa, it didn't take very long at all. They did end up calling me to confirm some information, so I would really recommend keeping your phone on you if at all possible. If you do miss the phone call like I did, I was at work at the time, and also the fire alarm was going off, they will leave a message, and they answered pretty quickly when I called back. The visa was one of the things that I was most worried about because it was left to such the last minute, and I really didn't know that it would be. I didn't expect that at all. I do believe that it was in the calendar, but I was just like, is this right? It's been so long. I believe I was only able to apply in August once I got my certificate of eligibility from the school in Japan, which was about a month or less than a month before I left. But the visa application process itself took very little time. It was processed very quickly, and I believe that everything came back to me in less than 2 weeks, I think. So even though it can be kind of stressful to send off your passport and everything right before you're ready to leave, don't worry, everything should work out. They've done this so many times before. If there's anything I've missed or if you have any questions, please feel free to let me know, and I'll see you next time when I'll be talking about my arrival in Japan and some of the first things that I did. See you next time, and bye for now. So hot in here. My glasses are all fogged up. It's Texas. It's Texas in the summer, and I turned off all the fans.